Steven, you play Mufasa in The Lion King. Talk a little bit about when you first decided you wanted to become an actor and what steps you took to realize your dream, as they say.
Okay, so I started doing theater in high school. Although, I mean, I'm sure that my family would tell you that I started way before that. Just clowning around in the living room. But I actually was introduced to theater in high school. I went to my first show as a sophomore in high school. It was Les Mis, and it kind of changed, really changed my life. Changed the trajectory of it anyway. Grew up in a really underserved neighborhood in Indianapolis, and kind of used theater as a means to escape from that reality. I mean, now obviously I use it to provide an escape for other people, but honestly, that was the thing that most attracted me to theater when I first started as a sophomore in high school.
Was that even a thought in your head that you were going to be changing people's days and that kind of thing when you went out and said about it, where people are actually going to come watch me, and for 2.5 hours, 3 hours, their problems are going to go out the door?
Not at all. Yeah, I didn't really make that connection. Watching Les Mis, I didn't know that that's what was happening to me. You know, it did provide an escape from my everyday reality, and I just knew that once I started doing theater, like once I started, once I got a script in my hands and a character in my hands, I could be that and completely just kind of do away with everything that I was going through as a teenager growing up in the neighborhood that I grew up in. That was really my focus. It wasn't until I was an adult that I realized, and actually, I would even go as far to say, doing this show in particular, I can remember a moment specifically when I was on tour with The Lion King, and we were in Phoenix, Arizona, and meeting a lady at the stage door who came to me, and she literally said, she was like, I needed to see this show at this point in my life. My father just passed away, and hearing you sing that song, like, it put me in a completely different headspace on how to deal with that.
Yeah.
And that is a very defining moment of how I realized that what I was doing in theater was actually, way bigger than just providing an escape for myself.
Absolutely. And it's still true today, because people definitely need an escape nowadays.
Yeah, definitely.
When you first were starting out, were you primarily interested in only theater? Were you going to come to New York to try and pursue all avenues, or were you most comfortable in the theatrical?
I had no plans whatsoever to pursue this professionally.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was something that you could do. I just knew that it was fun for me. Growing up in Indianapolis, there weren't very many avenues to pursue this professionally, so it wasn't on my radar. And par for the course, my career and me being introduced to different avenues of the arts has been people realizing something in me that I didn't see in myself, and showing me a path to go. So even this, I remember auditioning for Lion King for the first time in Bloomington, Indiana. We were in Indianapolis. A car full of us drove the 3 hours, but I wasn't gonna go. And my friends were like, "Hey, you need to be seen for this particular show." And I went. I crapped the audition. It was not very good.
It's not going to crap too bad if you're on Broadway.
Well, there's a long story in
Broadway.
between that audition and how I got here. But yeah, I would say I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of people in my life see something in me that I didn't see, and kind of point me in the right direction.
And now you have been with The Lion King in some capacity for over 10 years, right?
Almost 14.
Yeah.
Almost
It's a
14.
long time.
14 years. Yep.
What was it like? You mentioned that you didn't feel you particularly had a great audition, but what was it like when you were ultimately cast, went on the road, came to New York?
Yeah.
You kind of bopped in and out around between New York and tour and back.
Yeah, that's right. So I had that initial audition that didn't go very well. I auditioned again. I moved to Seattle. I auditioned again. The Lion King was there, and they had an open call. I went again. The guy who was in charge of casting at that time recognized me from my Indianapolis audition and was like, "What are you doing all the way out here?" and I hope that you're feeling better.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that he was just, saying the thing that everybody says, oh, I remember you, but he actually did remember me. So I hope you're feeling better. Let's see what you got. And from then on, it was 2 years, 7 auditions later, and I was sitting on my lunch break for Miss Saigon at the Fifth Avenue Theater in Seattle,
Mm-hmm.
and I got a call from casting that said, "Are you ready to come to Broadway?" And even then, when I came to New York, I was only supposed to be here for 6 months as a temporary replacement, and 14 years later,
Here you are.
yeah.
Now, you also have played different roles, right? I know currently you're playing Mustafa, but you have also played other parts in the show, right?
Yeah,
Out on the road, right?
So Mufasa. So I've been playing Mufasa for here for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I did Mufasa on the road for 3 years as well. So it's been about 6 years. But I actually understudied the role of Scar here on Broadway. But I started in the ensemble understudying Scar and Mufasa, wildebeest number 1.
Yeah. You have to have quite a presence to play Mustafa. And what do you do to get into character to make yourself come in? And like, if you're having a crap day before you get here, you really got to. How do you psych yourself out to get into the part?
I mean, I'll say that this show really does make it easy, and that's not just that's not a stock answer. This is it's a super inspiring story, and when I was younger, starting out in this role, I really did try to emulate what the people who were already doing the character were doing, and mesh that somehow with what James Earl Jones did with the animated feature.
Yeah.
Does not work very well. Does not work very well
Yeah.
because nobody can be James Earl Jones, and those actors just weren't me. So once I stripped away those different those things and really got to the heart of who Mufasa really is, which I think at the core, Mufasa is a father first, and then he's a leader who wants to do right by the by the people who look up to him and who look to him for support. And that is definitely somebody who I try to strive to be.
Yeah.
And so once I started to implement those different ideals into the character, then it became more of myself and a much more interesting portrayal. So I just tried to remember whenever I'm starting a new show, remember who he is at the heart.
And you mentioned that people do look to him and look up to him. Do your other actors do the same? Have you played that role in their lives, especially for people who are just coming in?
I don't. I mean, I would say that I definitely have a big brother. I'm like the big brother of the company. I've grown up with this company.
Yeah.
Honestly, and I've seen a lot of people come and go. We've all leaned on each other for support through deaths, through marriages, through all of these different things. And I think that I definitely have. I don't know if it's just the role itself that kind of allows for that, but I would say that I have like a big brother persona to a lot of my castmates, for better or for worse.
Yeah. They don't know the real L. Steven, right?
for better or for worse.
Now, I was reading an article in Playbill about the diversity on Broadway with the Disney productions.
Yeah.
How important is that for you to be a part of that story and that coming together?
Oh, it's super important. I'm very fortunate, and it's never lost on me how lucky I am to be able to, especially in today's climate, to be able to portray a positive Black father figure on stage, in a royal, in all of its form on stage every day. And I think that that's important for kids who look like me to come and see, and then also for kids who don't look like me to come and see, especially because of what is portrayed in the news and what's constantly being shown out there. I think it's really fantastic that Lion King provides an opportunity to see brown people in a completely different way. And we've been around for 21 years, so to have that kind of imprint on Broadway, and then to see other shows, starting to follow that lead, it's super special.
That's one of the the most sad things about our time is that even has to be a conversation.
Yeah.
I know my nephews are 7 and 5, and they don't see color, they don't see sexuality, they don't
Yeah.
see gender, they just see people.
Mhm.
And it's like you wait for that time where it twists and it's like, oh, like things are different, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's got to be important to you. You're a father as well, so
Yeah.
I know, you could probably relate a little bit to that as
It
well.
is. It is. I mean, I think that theater does that. I think that's one of the really important reasons why it's important to take children to theater, because I think right off the bat it teaches them to be empathetic and exposes them to different cultures and experiences that are not, their own.
Right.
And the more we can teach and instill empathy in children, then the better, chance that we have raising adults who do well in society.
Now, being an actor on Broadway probably affords you the luxury of getting to spend a little more time with your family than if you were working on a television series or a movie.
Mhm.
Or is that something that appeals to you even more, being in the show than?
I mean, so my son is actually going to start college next year,
Really?
and he's going into musical theater as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say the most important thing that it's provided to him, seeing me go through the things that I've gone through in this business, is it's provided him a on hands and up close and personal look at what not to do, frankly,
Right.
and and an example as to how to do this, and the responsibility that you have to this medium if you're going to pursue it. So I mean, that's definitely something that I'm really grateful for, that he's been able to see that and hopefully emulate, take
Yeah.
away the positives from it
I was
and
going to say,
learn from the
he has
negatives.
quite a role model in all that you've accomplished. So
Thank you.
That's got to be something you're very proud
He's
of.
going to be way better than I am.
Oh,
So.
We'll check in with him when he's in front of the camera. I'm going to ask
Yeah.
him. Now, one of the other things that being a Broadway performer enables you to do is some episodic work here on the shows in New York. I know you were just on Blue Bloods.
Yeah.
What was that experience like for you?
It was great. They're a fantastic cast.
Yeah.
It's interesting because generally the kinds of roles that I've gotten to play on TV are very different from Mufasa. I'm playing in mostly like kind of hard-nosed detectives. So it's really cool to be able to do that during the day and then come and be this warm father figure in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's one of the fortunate things about Lion King in particular, being a long running show. It definitely affords me to do other stuff like during the day, which only enriches what I get to do here every night.
Absolutely. What are some of your rituals before a show to get yourself ready? Do you start, preparing a certain time of the day? Do you just keep well hydrated, stop talking, that kind of thing?
You want the real stuff?
Yeah, go ahead. Do the real stuff.
No, just kidding.
You shouldn't even be doing this interview. You should be on vocal rest right now.
No, I definitely I warm up 45. I have a 45-minute vocal warm up routine that I do at home, which for me I found in preparation for this character doesn't wear out my voice and kind of allows me the time that I need for my voice to kind of settle back into Mufasa land by the time that I'm doing the show.
Yeah.
I do my physical warm up once I get here. And then once I'm at the theater, I also do this really gross thing called navaging.
Okay.
There's a contraption called the navage, and it's an electric, basically neti pot. So
Sounds good. We don't have to
all the
elaborate
New
on that
York,
one.
all of the New York atmosphere,
All the New York-
and,
yeah.
it gets it right on out of there.
All the New York actors watching this will definitely appreciate
Navage.
Yeah, Navage.
Save your life.
What do you find most challenging about jumping on stage almost every night and playing Mufasa?
I would say that the most challenging thing is just trying to live up to the expectation of the character. It's a lot, that people come in with a very specific set of expectations for this show in general, and then this character has a really big responsibility in the show.
Yeah.
So dealing with the day to day and each and every day, and trying to remove that to kind of center yourself, because he is the epitome of just center and focus and all of that. Sometimes I'm not, and so for me to to strip away everything that I'm going through to really focus in and hone in on being that can be difficult. Can be difficult at times, but it's also, I find it's also really helpful to be able to do that, to be able to come back to a place of center with this character for my everyday reality too.
And now you started touching on this briefly about your people's reactions to you and being sort of a role model and seeing a person of color. What are some of the interactions you have at the stage door, and what is like one memorable thing that someone has said to you that really impacted the way you maybe looked at how important what you actually do is for the audience? Not that you didn't think it was important before that, but what's really stood out in your mind from that point of view?
I think like we were talking about earlier. I think that knowing that every just bringing it back to what I go through, with the everyday challenges, everybody else is as well. And so to be able to, like I said before, provide that escape from reality for people is huge. And so I love the stage door for that reason. And one of my favorite things recently is all of the kids that come to the stage door who are doing Lion King Jr. and seeing, the kids who are playing Mufasa. Hey, I'm Mufasa in my school show, and sometimes it's a girl who's playing Mufasa. Like that's really, I feel like that's a really inspiring thing for to be able to witness. So that's one of my favorite things is going to the stage door for that reason, to hear how this show moves people, because I know what it's done for me.
I'm sure as much as you were inspired by hearing those stories, you're inspiring to those people. So
thank you.
Thank you so much, El Stephen, for taking the time to meet with me. It was a true pleasure.
My pleasure too. Thank you.
Hopefully there will be another one down the road.
Look forward to it.
Thank you.